Good morning, guys. I'm so excited because today is day one of Module 2. We get to move on to a new module today, and I'm super excited about it because I love this module. So I'm in my room right now, as you can tell by my wall of artwork that Caitlin has made me over the years. So what you need to have for today is your knowledge and response journal. And we are going to start today on page 47 by making module 2. So go ahead and on page 47, write module 2. And we are going to use pages 48 and 49 today. So if you want to go ahead and write 48 and 49 on them, you'll be ready to go. All right, so I am going to share the screen so we can go ahead and get started. Oh, wait, I got to make sure I click those buttons so you can hear it. Okay. Here we go.
Welcome back, amazing thinkers. I'm Sue Sabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today we'll need the buffalo or back, your journal, and a pencil. Today I'll also be showing the cover of the buffalo or back, and your classroom teacher will be reading the rest of the text to you. So if you do not have a copy at home, no worries. Please pause here to gather what you need and then just hit play when you're ready to continue. Please take a close look at this compass and point to the letter W. What do you think the W stands for on this compass? Shout it out to me or tell a learning partner. W stands for west. West is a direction that we can travel. West is also known as an area in our country. The states highlighted in yellow are considered to be in the western part of the United States. People have been exploring the West for thousands of years. This module will introduce us to the history of the American West. As we explore the American West, this big question, this essential question, will guide a lot of our thinking. So please pause here to read the question to yourself, and then we'll read it together.
Okay, so the essential question for Module 2 is, what was life like in the West for early Americans?
What was life like in the West for early Americans? By the end of the module, after exploring all different kinds of text, you'll be able to answer this question. Our focusing question will help us focus in even more as we read the buffalo or back. The focusing question is, how did the actions of the American Indians and early Americans impact the prairie in the American West? There are words here that you saw before in Module 1. There are also new words. For example, prairie might be new for you. Prairie is a large, flat, grassy area of land in the West. When I look at this question, it helps to break it down to be able to understand what the question is asking. This question is really asking us two things. It's asking us to look at the actions of the American Indians and how those actions impacted the prairie in the American West, this question is also asking us to take a look at the early Americans and how their actions impacted the prairie in the American West. What do I notice and wonder about this text? We're going to begin to explore the American West by learning more about the buffalo. During our video lesson, we'll explore the front cover of The Buffalo Are Back, and you'll be reading the book with your classroom teacher. The Buffalo Are Back was written by Jean Craighead George, and the illustrations were painted by Wendell Miner. Pause here to set up a notice and wonder chart in your journal, and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so on page 48 of your knowledge response journal, we need to go ahead and make your notice and wonder chart for the Buffalo Are Back. Put today's date on the top, 11-4. Make sure you write the title of the book, The Buffalo Are Back, and your notice and your wonder chart on page 48. So if you need to pause the video so that you can put this on page 48, please do so. And then hit play when you are ready.
When I look at the cover of the book, I begin to notice and wonder. I notice that the grass is very tall and very green. The grass is so tall, it's even taller than the buffalo. When I read the title, The Buffalo Are Back, I have a question. My question is, where did they go? What are they back from? There's so much to notice and wonder just on the cover of the book. I'd like you to open up your journal so you can jot down what you notice and also the questions that you're wondering about. I'm going to add the question words here as a reminder to always begin your question with one of these question words. Pause to work and to notice and wonder on the cover of the book, and then just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so what I want you to do is on page 48, you are going to write down some notices and wonders about the cover only of the book, okay? So you can go ahead and push pause on the video to write down. I would like for you to do 2 notices and 2 wonders about the cover, and make sure you use those words over there, okay? And then when you are ready, you can just hit play. Okay, so I had 2 notices and I had 2 wonders. My first notice was, I noticed a bird is sitting on a blade of grass. You guys see that? Like, this bird is sitting on this blade of grass. It's holding on. I also noticed that the baby calf is orange, but the adult is a brown color. And I wonder, just like Miss Sabella, where did the buffalo go? Where the buffalo went? And I also wondered, how does the grass grow so tall? So you are going to take a picture of your notices and your wonders for me today after you finish the lesson. So let's keep going with Miss Sabella.
In addition to reading The Buffalo Are Back, we're also going to read a poem by Carl Sandburg. The name of that poem is Buffalo Dusk. By reading this poem, we can learn even more about the American West. Let's click on the link to read the poem together. As I read Buffalo Dust by Carl Sandburg, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture what's happening in the poem. Ready? Here we go. The buffaloes are gone, and those who saw the buffaloes are gone. Those who saw the buffaloes by thousands and how they pawed the prairie sod into dust with their hooves, their great heads down pawing on in a great pageant of dusk. Those who saw the buffaloes are gone, and the buffaloes are gone. What pictures did you see in your mind? Pause to tell your learning partner, or pause to draw a picture in your journal. What are you picturing? Either chat with your learning partner or draw, and then just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so I did not really like the way that Miss Sabella read the poem because I didn't hear what she was trying to tell us. So what I'm going to do is I found an audio clip of the actual poet, Carl Sandburg, reading his poem. So what I'm going to do is I would like to let you listen to the poet reading it. And then on page 49 of your journal, you're going to turn it sideways, okay? And you're going to write, what do you see in your mind while listening to Buffalo Dusk? Okay, so go ahead on page 49, get that written, and then you're going to pause and do this, and then hit play, and then I'm going to let you listen to it being read aloud by the actual poet. Okay, so I'm going to show you on the screen. I've already uploaded the text, The Buffalo Were Back. So here's the book for you to read, okay? But then this, where it says text, read aloud, it's got the story, the whole book being read aloud, and then it's got the poem. So here is the poem.
Buffalo Dusk. The buffaloes are gone, and those who saw the buffaloes are gone. Those who saw the buffaloes by thousands, and how they pawed the prairie sod into dust with their hoofs, their great heads down pawing on in a great pageant of dusk. Those who saw the buffaloes are gone, and the buffaloes are gone.
Okay, so you could hear a lot more emotion in the poem that Carl Sandburg read as opposed to how Miss Sabella read it. And you may not understand what it means to see a buffalo pawing. So I found a video of the buffaloes pawing and playing around. So here we go. Not sure why this ad keeps popping up, but just keep watching the buffalo. Okay, so you can see how they were pawing on the dirt, on the grass, and the dust. All right, so let's go back to, so now what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and on page 49, I want you to draw a picture. What did you see in your mind? What were you visualizing while he was reading that poem? Draw that picture for me, and then when you're done, you can go ahead and push play to get back to the video.
When we understand words and phrases in a poem, it helps us better understand what's happening in the poem, and it actually helps us make pictures in our mind. I'm going to reread the poem one more time, and what I'd like you to do is pause the video when you hear a word that you have a question about and jot that word down in your journal. Ready? Here we go. The buffaloes are gone, and those who saw the buffaloes are gone. Those who saw the buffaloes by thousands and how they pawed the prairie sod into dust with their hooves, their great heads down pawing on in a great pageant of dusk. Those who saw the buffaloes are gone, and the buffaloes are gone. You might have jotted down more than one word in your journal. When buffalo are pawing the ground, they're scraping the ground with their hoofs. Show me or your learning partner what that might look like. Another word that you may have jotted down in your journal could have been sod. Sod is another way of saying grass. Now that we have a deeper understanding of some of the words in the poem, listen to it again and pay attention to how your picture is getting more detailed. Now you know what pawing looks like and also what sod is. As you listen again, add to your picture or pause to explain to your partner what you now understand. Ready? Here we go. The buffaloes are gone, and those who saw the buffaloes are gone. Those who saw the buffaloes by thousands and how they pawed the prairie sod into dust with their hooves, their great heads down pawing on in a great pageant of dusk. Those who saw the buffaloes are gone, and the buffaloes are gone. Even though we just started to explore the American West, I can already tell that your knowledge is growing. You're already starting to learn so much about buffalo and also the American West. Be sure to share your knowledge with others, and I will see you again very soon.
Okay, so that is actually the end of the video lesson, but that is not the end of our lesson because we're going to listen to the story being read aloud, okay? So for those of you that are watching, today's magic word or secret word is turkey. So somewhere in today's lesson on Google Classroom or through Clever, you need to send me a message that you heard the word turkey. Okay, so I'm going to move over to, oops, wrong thing. We are going to listen to the read aloud for The Buffalo Are Back. Oh, I think.
The Buffalo Are Back, written by Jean Craighead George, and paintings by Wendell Miner. In a time long ago, an orange buffalo calf was born. He wobbled to his feet and blinked. A lark flew to the top of a 6-foot blade of grass and sang sweetly as a panpipe. A town of prairie dogs barked. The green gold grasses of the plains rippled like waves from horizon to horizon. On that day in the mid-1800s, 75 million buffalo roamed in North America. In a little more than 50 years, there would almost be none. What happened? The answer is the story of the American Indians, the buffalo, and the grass. The American Indians. On the day that the calf was born, the air was smoky. The Indians who lived on the plains were setting the grasses ablaze, as they had for thousands of years. The fire was good for the prairie. The calf may have been afraid of the flames, but they kept the trees from taking over the grasslands. The fire's ashes put nutrients into the soil, making the grass healthier for the buffalo that ate it. By taking care of the grass, the Indians took care of the buffalo. In return, the buffalo took care of the Indians and the plains. Buffalo were the Indians' food and were used to make their shelter and clothing. The buffalo never ate too much grass, and their sharp hooves helped the rainwater reach into the soil, keeping the prairie healthy. The orange calf learned to roll in a dust wallow. He watched the prairie chickens show off their exotic feathers. From the Mississippi to the Rocky Mountains and from the Gulf of Mexico up into Canada, the buffalo herds grazed the Great Plains. The buffalo. In the mid-1800s, change came to the plains. First, it was the white fur hunters. They stacked the beautiful buffalo hides in pointed canoes and sold them from east for a profit. Then the American explorers came, who shot many animals for fun. Buffalo made good targets for the hunters because they are big and often stand still. But it was the settlers from the east and the American government that killed almost all the buffalo herds. After the Civil War, the government bought huge tracts of land from the Indians. They forced many Indians to go to reservations and sold the land to settlers. Families from Europe and the East Coast rushed to the West to settle the rich black prairie land. But there was trouble on the plains. The government broke its treaties with the Indians, so the Indians fought back and won several battles against the United States Army. Then the government saw another way to defeat the Indians. Soldiers and settlers were encouraged to shoot every buffalo they saw or drive whole herds over cliffs. Without the buffalo for food, shelter, and clothing, the Indians could not survive on the plains. Most of the last wild buffalo went down in dust and gunfire. So the great Sioux chief, Sitting Bull, who defeated General George A. Custer in the Battle of Little Bighorn, a cold wind blew across the prairie when the last buffalo fell, a death wind for my people. And the settlers soon discovered a death wind for the prairie. The grass. With the death of the buffalo, the Indian wars were over. The settlers faced a new fight, the Battle of the Grasses. Over the eons, the prairie grasses had adapted to the Great Plains' frequent droughts by growing tough roots to hold in moisture. These roots were wide and deep and held the rich soil in place. The buffalo's sharp hooves and the Indian prairie's fires had helped keep the grasses healthy, but the new settlers did not understand the importance of the grass. Early settlers were ranchers and cowboys. They brought fences and cattle to the plains. The cattle did not roam, so they ate too much of the grass within their fences. Their flat hooves packed the earth. Air and rainwater no longer reached into the soil. Later, settlers wanted to farm the land, so they tore out the grass and planted crops to sell. Steel plows and steam tractors were invented to conquer the grassland, and the great plow-up began. Wheat, corn, and soybeans were planted. These crops have shallow, fragile roots. At first, the crops flourished. In the prairie sunshine and timely rains, new railroads carried the harvest to distant markets. Now, not one orange buffalo wobbled to its feet. The larks that had once eaten the insects living in the grass did not sing. The prairie dogs were silent. Without the buffalo, the grasses, and without the Indians to care for them, the prairie was in danger. The settlers would soon learn why. Drought came, as it had before. Billions of grasshoppers swept down on the plains. Long ago, when drought came and grasshoppers chewed the healthy grass, the plants would grow back. Their tough roots always survived, but when the fragile crops were chewed by grasshoppers, nothing grew back. Suddenly, the grasshoppers laid eggs and flew on. The farmers replanted their crops. They did not know they had begun to destroy the prairie. When the buffalo lived on the prairie, their sharp hooves helped the rain reach deep into the earth, and the tough roots of grass held in the wet. Now no moisture remained in the soil. The farmers' crops withered and died. In the 1930s, the plowed earth finally crumbled to dust. The wind eroded the land, picking up the dust and boiling it into terrifying black clouds. The clouds rained dirt. Barns, farms, houses, and towns were buried beneath the dust. People coughed and choked and grew ill. Many died. Hungry and penniless, plains farmers and townsmen packed up their belongings and sold their worthless land to the government. The prairie soil had blown away. The land was no longer rich. The farmers climbed into old cars and left. The great plow-up had been a disaster. In just over 50 years, it had destroyed the buffalo, the protective prairie grasses, and the Indians who had cared for both. What could be done to save the prairie? The Prairie Comeback. In the beginning of the 1900s, Americans elected a president who had once been a hunter on the Great Plains. He knew and loved the land and wanted to protect it for future generations. Nature-loving President Theodore Roosevelt especially wanted to save the buffalo. He was very fond of the great American grazer with its humped back and shaggy coat, so he sent out scouts to look for a wild buffalo. The scouts came home with nothing. All the scouts but one. A naturalist named W.T. Hornaday looked and would not give up. On a tip from a Crow Indian, he rode his horse into a secluded meadow in Montana, a place that had been hidden away from the world. There before him grazed 300 buffalo. A little orange calf wobbled to her feet and blinked. A lark flew to a blade of grass and sang as sweetly as a panpipe. There had been 75 million buffalo on the plains. Now there were 300 left in the wild. People who understood the land, led by Hornaday, knew the buffalo had to be saved. The president helped. Roosevelt established the National Bison Range in Montana and made it illegal to shoot buffalo. Over the years, more land was set aside in the western states for the great grazing herds, which were beginning to grow. Thanks to Roosevelt, the orange calf in Montana romped with the other calves and rolled in the dust. Her herd grew in numbers. Many were sent to national parks and wildlife refuges that had been established to start new herds. As the dust storm attacked farms and cities, the government worked to save the prairie. Farmers were taught to plant and grow crops in curves instead of straight lines. The contour plowing helped to prevent the dirt from blowing away. Government workers planted trees with deep roots to hold in moisture in the soil and break the wind. When the rains returned, farmers planted grass between their curved rows of corn to hold the soil in place. Crops flourished again. One day, a young girl walked into her house in Kansas waving a 6-foot blade of grass. "Where did you find that?" her father asked. "That's buffalo grass. It's been extinct for years, or so we thought." "In my schoolyard," she said. That is land that never, that is land that was never plowed," her father told her. Like many older people living on the prairie, he longed to see the beautiful grasses again. Let's try to find more of these tall native grasses, he said. Perhaps the tall grass would come back to the plains. People like the girl's father rounded up kids, parents, botanists, farmers, and merchants. They searched the places as the plows had never reached, graveyards, old railroad beds, and crumbling fence rows. There they found small stands of the native grasses, blue stem, gamma, bunch, and buffalo grass. They raised them and sowed the seeds on abandoned farms and public lands. The grasses flourished tall and graceful. Groups that worked to protect nature purchased 30,000 acres where native grasses had been grown. This nature preserve in Oklahoma is called the Tall Grass Prairie Preserve. Into the tall grass, they released 300 buffalo. One morning, not too long ago, a young man just out of graduate school galloped his horse across the prairie preserve, counting buffalo for the buffalo census. Suddenly, he reined his horse. An orange calf wobbled to his feet and blinked. "Welcome, little calf," said the Wichita Indian youth called. "You are America's 200,081st buffalo." A lark flew to the top of a 6-foot blade of grass and sang as sweetly as a panpipe. "The buffalo are back!" If you like this book,
Okay. So that was the story, The Buffalo Are Back. Mouse isn't working. Okay, so today what you're going to do is make sure that on page 48 you did your notices and your wonders for the cover of the book. And then on page 49, you drew your picture about what you saw in your head during the poem. And then you're going to post a picture of your pages 48 and 49 up into the Google Classroom. And remember today's magic word and make sure you tell me what it was to get your points for today. All right, I'll see you guys later this afternoon. Bye.